and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to this video update with me. Once again, I want to touch a bit about the topic of, wisdom from the stars. There's many things I can talk about, and I think something really important wants to be shared today. As you can see, we have some snow again. That's why all this hat, which makes it very difficult for me to hear myself with all the layers. But snow is melting very fast, so it's flooding onto me, and I'm just forced to use this hat anyway. So today I want to talk about the speed of thoughts as an equality to the speed of thought being the equivalent to the purity of thought. So when I say thoughts, I don't mean the lower thoughts that sometimes we produce as a collective of human beings tapping into the grid, the old grid system, which is full of belief systems and plans and things that are very much distorted. I'm talking about the purity of thoughts that is the higher mind, our visionary mind. So I want to give some examples as well, talk about a beautiful example that talks about the speed of thoughts, because this is something very important in terms of us being co-creator beings within purity and within the receptivity of our true divine human nature. So the first thing I want to talk about is, what do we require for the purity of thought? So everything begins with the crystal clear vision, and that vision being a higher ideal that we carry within our soul. And just yesterday we watched a movie about Steve Jobs, who was behind Apple and Macintosh and all of that, and the movie was very interesting because it spoke about his nature, which was sometimes very determined, very focused, very linear, very focused on the goal, what he wanted to achieve. And although a bit of that was presented almost like a negative, the thing is that when a certain being comes here with a purpose to be a visionary, they have to uncompromisingly follow that vision, which a lot of times, there will be a lot of other factors and people and opinions, and still that focus that really is required for that vision will have to be held. So I will start now by giving an example with a beautiful master. I'm sure that many of you read books from Anastasia. So Anastasia, the Cedar series, it comes from Russia. It's from an author called Vladimir Megre. So he was the man who came into contact with her, and they had a mission, and he is supposed to translate her wisdom and everything she was about to receive and transmit as one of the masters incarnate, one of the master souls incarnate. So she's from Russia, one of the forest regions there in Taiga desert in a way. So the thing is that she spoke a lot about the speed of thoughts as in terms of how we are developing our focus and what all we need to do to keep the thoughts pure. And she mentioned a lot of factors, like being here in nature and just being outside of the distorted matrix, and how we really need to disentangle from everything that is not. So she used one example when she spoke about the priesthood. I'm talking about the influential dark priesthood, and she mentioned that it began back then in the days of Egypt, when the first priest said, oh, we can control people like this, and that's how we're going to do it. But it's because they had a very good speed of thought, and they knew how to influence the masses. So she mentioned that capital priest in behind the scenes, even nowadays, all he does is just ponder and reflect on all the different scenarios and all the receptivity, and that's how he copes with and quells his scenarios. And she was actually one of the beings who was able to tune into that and actually not compete, but come together with the speed of thoughts. The thing is that a lot of the beings who have been mastering this thought scenario, and that when we look back into our history and we look at the nature of Lemuria, which was all about the development of heart, and then we went through the period of Atlantis, which was all about the development of the mind. And we're coming now into terms with embracing all that we are, the totality of our being, and integrating that in our multidimensional ascension nature, which is the heart, the mind, the root experience of our humanness all as one. And that all comes together in the higher heart, which is our cosmic heart. This is where the center of all the knowledge of all life in creation from the mother womb, for their motherhood comes from. And once we reach that unveiling from everything that it is not and everything that keeps us separate from it, then we will start to receive within that purity, and that will increase our speed of thought. And the speed of thought will be an equivalent to the speed of our vibration, of course. So everything that lowers our vibration, even everything we put into our body, like dense foods and, you know, the energy of death instead of celebrating life, will affect that. So she gave a few examples how, you know, you can increase your speed of thought so that you can actually co-create with the divine, rather than these denser light packages of information that's basically still in a way formulated from the lower. So very important thing to do on that journey will be to find a synthesis spot, you know, that spot of awareness, which is an integration of both, not just, you know, because a lot of people in the New Age have been going to streams and they said it's all about the heart. When then you have some people who are all about the mind, you know, the spirituality, the science, this needs to meet. The brain, the heart, but also our gut experience as a human being, our root experience needs to come together. And our higher heart. The higher heart is already the center of all that we need, that we ever needed in our life force, awakening, remembrance, and co-creation. So when we start to work with the speed of thought, we will see that the thought that is really fast requires purity, because everything that is kind of distorted, it's very dense, it will slow it down. And a lot of people are asking themselves, why are they not creating things that they want to create? It's because there's still a lot of distortion. So first thing, find a space for synthesis of not just being all in the heart, because a lot of times that for people can be very much naive and they will not see certain things that are happening. You know, how do we overcome this duality and a lot of control that's happening on our planet is not to negate it and say, oh, it's now all about the heart. I don't care what's happening. It's acknowledging it, but then no longer feeding it power and putting all our life force, you know, when we can subtract the life force that we have, that we were given as a sovereign being of source, we all have the same out jumping point. So it's like the same startup point, but we developed this differently. That's what we came up as different levels of consciousness, different layers, different developments of how we work and use our life force. So when we master that, we will see that we first need to come into this synthesis and, you know, seeing the brain as equal to our heart, but then meeting the two. So a lot of times when there's still conflicts within us, we got to find that inner dialogue, you know, because I talk to a lot of people and they say, I can't make a choice because this part of me tells me this and this part of me tells me that. Find a way to listen to both aspects and fuse them together, but then also see what's important for your earthly experience at this point in time. So, you know, before we become this higher vibration, this higher frequency of a visionary, which has to be very focused. You know, a person who can become a visionary, they need to work through a lot of distortions. They need to be very brave. They need to be very focally oriented. And for a lot of people who don't understand that, they will seem almost like absent to the thoughts of others or inputs of others. It's not that that's the truth. It's just that they're so in knowing where they need to go, what they need to do, because their speed of thought is so fast. And for a lot of these people, we call them geniuses, and they had interesting life paths. And this goes for a lot of us as well on the path of ascension. We are also geniuses, a lot of us, in terms of how we are ascending. It might not be that we're creating physical products, you know, or delivering technology and things like that, but we are all visionaries on a different level of the variation of creation where we stand from, because we're each coming from a different facet of creation with a different mission and assigned purpose within that mission. So the first advice, like I said, find a space of the synthesis, because I see a lot of people who only want to go about it with the heart can be very ignorant. You know, sometimes you tell them, look, it's not all as it seems, and they say, oh, it doesn't matter, you know, it's all fine, we're all taken care of, it's all about the heart. You know, no, your brain also has very much wisdom for you, which will tell you exactly that, you know, sometimes things just don't feel right, but you also, in your thoughts, you will see that something doesn't add up together. So we need to listen to all aspects, but when there's a fusion, when a being is integrated, they will receive their wisdom from the higher heart, no longer just, you know, these separate parts. But, you know, that's a process to where humanity is going at, you know, to find first that space of fusion and then to work on increasing the speed of thought, because we're bridging the gap. You know, it's not just the heart like it was in Lemuria, it wasn't just the mind like it was in Atlantis. We're coming into this togetherness. The third aspect, everything in creation is based on the principle of Trinity. Father, Mother, Child, you know, like I said, Creator, creation, and that experience of creation itself. So the next thing I want to talk about is all the veils of distortions we're going to have to move through when we are increasing our speed of thought. One very important one, very much in the spiritual communities out there, is spiritual ego. Because once we start holding on to something we know and we understand on a certain level and think that's it, and say, this is mine, I notice, it's very much going to limit us, because it's not going to allow us the space to fruition, you know, for that fruition and to expand further on. I've noticed that mostly people who work in terms of spirituality, who do some kind of spiritual work, they become used to this term that they're spiritual, so therefore they have a certain spiritual knowledge. But in truth, to become an initiate of truth, to serve the truth, not just people, humans, events, whatever, to serve truth itself as the embodiment of that truth. And remember, truth has its source, truth knows its source, therefore it needs no comparison, defending it, trying to seek it, trying to understand it, nothing egoic, it just is. And it comes and flows to us naturally when we're ready, on the level we're ready, so we always receive what we need to receive. That's the basic law of trust and surrender. So spiritual ego will keep us in this box, and it will keep us in this space like, oh, this is mine, I know this, you know, I know this. When the truth just is, and we don't even need to speak it. Spirit always tells me you just need to be it. If something within the outside framework is not in respondence to it, and there can be this dissonance, you know, there's resonance when the truth is just naturally flowing, you know, between our own self and the different selves, so coming together in relationships. So in terms of us finding those malfunctions, when we see there's distortions, we're going to feel it, because when we're rooted in our sacred cosmic heart, which connects all, you know, the whole divine trinity, no more just the mind, just the heart, just the root, whatever it is, just the gut, synthesis, okay? So that's the new Homo Illuminus I keep talking about, synthesized integrated human being. Unified polarization, no more, you know, dualistic polarization. So the thing is that therefore, naturally our vibration will increase, and therefore just speed of our thought. And that's why sometimes people can't believe, how can you know things you know? It's because you have a very fast speed of thought, because you're connected to the universal wisdom. Not just the wisdom that maybe your human counterpart has been going through, assessing through lifetimes and lifetimes, because I've noticed a lot of people can get very attached to the wisdom they've been gaining throughout their lifetimes. And even that, at a certain point, when you're going to be initiated of the new, of the more, always more, you're going to have to sacrificing even that. And I know it can be hard for a lot of you, for a lot of us, because there will always be a point in our learning when we learn a certain light package information, now let it go. All of it. And that will be freaky and scary, because we thought, but I earned this, you know, this is what I know, this is mine. When you work with spirit, nothing is yours. Even the thought transmissions, the words, the everything, the language, everything you receive is not even yours. You're just a vessel for it. You are the representation of that truth in your own way. And therefore that truth does not need you know, to be constantly affirmed, confirmed, compared, defended. It's just so beautifully flowing. And whatever is not in resonance with that truth, it either comes into that truth in its own natural time, or just dissolves and moves into its own timeline of, you know, it's all how it needs to be. Everything is always perfect in all of creation. So my dear beloveds, I ran out of my battery, but I wanted to say that, you know, to really be an initiate of truth, it has to do with a lot of times sacrificing our personal truth for the greater truth, which wants to flow through us. And that's, you know, where humans are. There needs to be this maturity, there needs to be this devotion to this highest aspect. And when this is naturally so, it means we're just ready. So nothing needs to be forced. But that space is so beautiful, because it is beyond all the concepts we think and we know, and we no longer need to struggle or fight against it. And that will naturally increase the speed of our thoughts. It will naturally increase our divine intelligence. But that's the intelligence where our heart and the divine mind and the root of our human experience, they all merge, and they create this white column of light of ascension, which I always talk about as our ascension pillar. It needs a lot of purity on our behalf. The pure we are, you know, that's why I spend most of my time outdoors, because that's where the purity of thoughts is. It's just the purest, you know, there's no distortions here. And most of the times when I'm just empty. I don't chase for knowledge. I don't ask spirit and now give me the information, give me this knowledge. I just sit, and if I receive something, it's just there because it wants to be expressed, wants to be shared. And I give birth to when I feel pregnant with that which needs to be shared, and then I let it go. And I just, you know, it's in the moment. The truth will just flow in the moment. It will not have to be, you know, a part of our bag of knowledge, which now is ours, and we have like this label on it and say ours, mine, you know, my knowledge, my truth, we get so defensive when we do that. You know, the only truth we have is our unique journey, But the truth is what it is, and we cannot distort it. And a lot of times when it's filtered through our ego, it will be distorted and it will be felt. And it's time for us to stop this, because this creates all these spiritual wars, and they're no less than the human wars that are still being fought on our planet, because everything begins with that first thought of separation. And that separation began with being separate from the truth. You know, and I just saw Muji, yeah, about his experience. He said he's just a human. He's an empty vessel walking on this journey, never knowing anything. Just, you know, the things he knows is just, it's not even him. It's just the truth. All the rest is just his unique experience walking the planet. So humble, so open. That was really beautiful. Very short video, words of the master, but very acknowledged and very much understood by those of us who know how this feels. You know, every day we need to be emptied of everything we experience and perceive, and whatever is meant to stay with us as truth, it will, because truth does not go away. Only those limited perceptions do. So that will really increase the speed of our thoughts, and that will naturally make us more propellant to work with these higher frequencies, because as long as we're still in the spiritual ego, we can't really move on to the higher planes of existence. I'm sorry, I maybe will disappoint a lot of you, but it's just how it is. Spirit always shows me this, you know, it's certain things, you know, there's like a suitcase and you gotta leave it, you know, in front of this doorway that takes you to new higher dimensional spaces. And not everybody will be ready to do that, you know. People still want certain soul agreements and experiences, and that's beautiful. For those of you, like Muji would say, seekers of the truth, you know, it's not like seekers of knowledge, but seekers of truth. Not even seeking it, just, you know, desire to have that desire to serve the truth. You will feel the resonance with that, and you will know how this feels and how to be constantly full and emptied out at the same time without having attachment to what we think we know and perceive, and it will be a beautiful journey for all of us. So continue to work on the speed of your thoughts, purifying them, you know, being so much outdoors, because, you know, that space without distractions and, you know, avoidance, that's a really beautiful space. And I will allow you in this space. I'm going to show you a bit of some of the mountain magic here, because we got some snow, our beautiful forest, and yeah, we're back again. So as always, so much love, wisdom, and power. Take care. Sending you beautiful mountain greetings, as always, within the greatest depth of my being, with grace. I love you all so much. Bye-bye.